An uptick in shootings in Akron, Toledo, and Cincinnati.
Across the nation, murders have soared since the beginning of the pandemic.
Heidi was shot and killed.
Charged with killing the couple in December of 2017.
But Newsy has discovered thousands of America's police agencies have for now stopped reporting crime incidents into the nation's premier crime database, the Uniform Crime Report. And it's hampering efforts to understand why the murders are up.
That's going to be harmful in crafting effective policies to reduce violence.
Josh Sugarmann runs the Violence Policy Center, and he depends on the normally very complete FBI crime data to make policy suggestions to curb gun violence. But he says with so many police agencies now dropping out, it will deal a big blow to reports like this one that compare things like violence against women from state to state.
This information isn't just egghead data that gathers dust in some researcher's shelf. It has real-world implications. It reveals the types of weapons used in Black homicide victimization, in Latino victimization, and tells us what's the relationship between victim and offender. Where are these attacks happening? What's the age of those who are being victimized?
In the fall of 2020, the FBI told Newsy that it would get tough with a deadline and stop collecting information on every crime that took place after January 1st of 2021 from any of the many local agencies, such as the NYPD, that had not transitioned to its new online crime reporting system called NYBERS. Back then, the Bureau forecast a 75% participation rate from the nation's police agencies by the end of 2021. But this week, the FBI acknowledged to Newsy the participation rate stands at only 62.6%, or far below forecasts. And just look at the resulting data loss. Nearly 16,000 agencies in the U.S. reported crimes to the FBI back in 2020. Today, updated numbers the FBI just released to us show only 11,920 police agencies remain. That's nearly 4,000 police agencies dropping out.
It was simply a mistake for the FBI to require local agencies to abandon the system they had been using for decades.
Rick Rosenfeld is the past president of the American Society of Criminology, and he says loss of so much information about crime across the U.S. is especially troublesome for 2021.
We're talking about a year in which there's widespread concern and quite sound evidence that homicide rates in particular, but also gun violence rates more generally, went way up.
The FBI blamed the lower than expected participation in NYBERS on technological challenges and loss of agency personnel to complete the transition. And the FBI tells us that it did make a no-cost NYBERS reporting solution available to local agencies last April. But apparently, far too few have signed up.
This is an information crisis of the FBI's own creation. They set up their own timetables, they set up their own approach to it, and now here we are 7 years later, and we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and it's not breaking into daylight, but it's a train coming the other way directly at us.
And joining us now is Newsy's senior investigative reporter, Mark Greenberg, who's been on this story. And Mark, I'm curious, what happens to these agencies that aren't reporting this data? Is there any sort of recourse for them?
Well, here's the thing, Andrew. This Uniform Crime Report, it is a voluntary database. But the Bureau of Justice Statistics is telling me that agencies' federal funding, their eligibility for certain federal grants, is dependent upon their participation. So they're saying they will enforce the law. That could take a few years, however, of actually missing the reporting cycle, so we could be seeing this mess continue to unfold for a number of years yet.
Well, I know you'll stay on it for us. Thank you so much for your reporting.
You bet.